Oh, Andrea Tessmann.
Yes, Kirk Buchner.
May I take you back to October 1961?
You may.
You have picked a gem. I mean, I know we call this show, how the hell did this go #1? But sometimes you got to break up the crap with legends. And that's clearly what you had in mind, right?
It's true. We got to occasionally listen to something good.
And this is about as good as it gets. You've given us Ray Charles, Hit the Road, Jack.
And don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more.
Yeah. That was good. That was good.
Occasionally I can pretend to sing.
Yeah. We will not duet what I've got planned for us next week. And once you hear what it is, you'll know exactly why.
All right.
Ray Charles, absolute legend. I don't know anyone who could say anything bad about him, period. I really don't.
Well, I mean, he was a notorious womanizer and heroin addict, so there's that.
Well, for a rock star, that's par for the course, though, isn't it?
True. And he also got the heroin under control and kicked it, so...
You know, he's actually do you ever hear the excuse that Dennis Rodman sort of gave when Carmen Electra caught him cheating?
No.
Rodman said one time that, I don't know how she got here. When there was a woman in it. Ray could have got away with that.
That just sounds too much like Shaggy. It wasn't me.
Yeah, well, I saw a boat down here that actually said it wasn't me. Like that was the name of the boat. It wasn't me. That might be a good one to look at. I don't know if that went #1.
I don't know if it did, but if it did, that could be fun.
It really could. Ray at this point, 1961 is an interesting time. The early 60s are really interesting in so many ways. I've called this era on the show like a musical cesspool, or a dead zone rather. Sort of the dead ball era, to use a baseball term. Right after rock it wasn't dangerous anymore, and no one really knew what to do. And there's not a lot of gems in this era. This is one of them. Ray at this point, also, he is one of the few people that had made it before the rock era and actually got bigger by not necessarily doing rock songs. Although this is actually a pretty good rock song, I would say.
I have to, yes, this falls into rock. I gotta say, Ray Charles spans genres. He's got country, he's got R&B, he's got folk, he's got blues, he's got rock. He's got a voice. If you listen to him talk,
yep,
he sounds like he's a baritone. When he sings, he's got this style to his singing that transcends song. Like, singing can't convey the emotion that he does with his yowls and yips and yells, and it's incredible. And he's got about a 3-octave range if you include his falsetto that he gets into quite often. And you can't classify him as one genre, because he's put out some records that are pretty distinctly country and some that are pretty distinctly R&B, but his greatest hits span all over the place.
It really does. Not that long ago, because I think I mentioned also to you and on the show, I've been doing a deep dive into pre-rock. So like the pre-rock era, the jump blues era, and sort of the origin of Ray Charles comes up a lot. And that sort of took me down a whole path towards just listening to his whole discography. Not all of it, obviously, but, you know, like a pretty wide variety of everything that he did. Here was, I think we can argue accurately that it was his most successful commercial period, which is also impressive considering that he's Black and he's 40.
Yep.
That's...
during that era. So, I mean, there's the great anecdote where he was supposed to play in Georgia, and when he found out that the hall that he was supposed to be playing in was segregated, he said, "Fuck off! I'm not doing this," and he walked away. And he was fined, I don't know, $800 or something, which at the time was a lot more money than
that's
would consider $800 these days. And yeah, and then a few years later, he went and played a non-segregated show there. So yeah, he stood up for for Black rights. And yeah, he was a bit of an anomaly because he was extremely successful across cultures and races. But at the time, people still didn't want to, they just liked the music. And then, well, entertainers are their own thing. Like, we'll just pretend they're not Black.
It's kind of interesting you brought that up. I think there is something to that. And maybe two white people aren't the best people to sort of do a deep dive into that. But there was that elephant in the room. They're there for the entertainment purposes, and maybe that's about it. You're super talented. The service entrance is over there. It just some awful shit that would go on.
There was stories about, was it Sammy Davis Jr., that when he was performing in Vegas, wasn't actually allowed to stay in the hotels that he was performing in, and had to like stay off the strip. So yeah, there's all sorts of stories about how, yeah, they're great, entertain us, but we won't actually acknowledge your humanity.
We'll put you on a pedestal, but not on the pedestal next to us.
Yeah. Show dog.
Yeah. Well, before this takes too much of a dark turn, or maybe we should just look at the origin of this particular song. I wasn't too familiar with Percy Mayfield, the writer of this song. So, disfigured pretty early in a car accident in his career. So I'm sure you probably saw the pictures. And I thought, well, how disfigured could he be? And he was.
Pretty disfigured, yeah.
He was. And this is and he worked with Ray quite a bit. And this is one of the great gems that he put together. I listened to a bit of Percy. I don't think that Percy could pull this off. But amazingly, when we're talking about the legend of Ray Charles, we're talking about a song where he isn't even the star.
No, Margie Hendricks is the star of this song.
Yeah, so I guess we should just sort of open it up. It kicks off with, well, you're the music theorist, so just if you want to sort of like take that opening, the musical opening.
Hit the road, Jack.
Well, I'm talking about like the everything leading up to it. Da, da, da.
Yeah, I mean it's just a great blues riff that it's a solid, deep sound. I don't know. I didn't really analyze it for anything beyond it's gone beyond a song in culture today to being just a over the top reference to all sorts of things.
Right.
Like we use it in Major League Baseball, or when someone's got a hockey penalty and they're being escorted off the ice. It's such a cultural phenomenon that
just that line, hit the road, Jack, which was a saying before, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. And I think to a lot of people, I know for myself early, when I first used to hear that a few times, I thought of it as sort of the ultimate FU song, but it really isn't. It's the ultimate FU line, but the song itself.
It's an argument between a couple, and it's sort of a long-standing, he's just trying to come up with excuses and she's just had enough.
But it feels like they've done this over and over and over. The first thing that Ray Charles, why are you so mean? You're the meanest damn woman I've ever seen. And well, I guess if you say so, I'll pack my shit and go. It's like, I'll be back.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hit the road, Jack.
Yeah. Easy. I'm going to be back and we're going to have the same fight. He's a deadbeat, but she's had enough, but he'll come back. He'll come back because that's just the song and dance that they do to each other over and over and over again. That's what I get out of it.
Sounds like some friends of mine.
Oh God, yes.
We all know that couple.
We all know that couple, and whoever the lady is in that couple, don't give them advice. Don't tell them what to do, because they're just gonna go right back, and then she's gonna tell them that, and then it's gonna be so awkward when you see them. Just say nothing. Nothing. That's took a tangent.
Honestly, Kirk, that's great relationship advice.
Usually just saying nothing almost always works. It's the best thing to do, especially if you really dislike one of those people, like, because it's just no.
Keep your opinion to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, and then so Margie Hendricks.
Yeah, let's talk more about her.
She had a long-standing affair with Ray Charles, well known and documented. And she was kind of the lead of the Raylettes.
Yep. Not the most creative backing name, is it?
But she was a star, and could have been a star in her own right. And unfortunately,
maybe, I don't know, but yeah, go on.
No, I was going to say, unfortunately, I think that their relationship had a lot to do with drug use, and she died of a heroin overdose.
Yeah, in 73 at only 38.
Yeah,
which is insane. I tried to find as many original performances of this, and I think what struck me, I mean, I think anyone who's seen Ray Charles perform knows that, I mean, he doesn't have to see to command an audience. Like, he's just got you. Margie doesn't, to me.
That's fair. I mean, well, I think a lot of that, though, is she is, by the nature of her position, a backup singer.
And I thought of that too. I was thinking, okay, well, she's not supposed to upstage Ray. I don't know that she can. Or maybe it's just because Ray's that good, or
I don't think
see
anyone could upstage Ray.
No, the Blues Brothers couldn't.
But then they're a comedy duo, so they've already got a.
Well, maybe they came close. Aretha definitely blew them out of the water.
Well, that's Aretha.
Yeah, I kind of screwed up. You said maybe I should watch Ray again. I watched the Blues Brothers again instead. I can't help it.
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Ray was in it. It was the real Ray. So that's actually where I first learned who Ray Charles was that movie.
I gotta say, he is one of the most recognizable voices in American soul music. I can't even classify him because it's so all over the place. R&B, soul, jazz, country.
And this song appeals to everybody. There is no mystery why this went number one. If you're a fan of rock music from a 1960 point of view, it got you. If you're in R&B, it got you. If you're in a shitty relationship, it got you. If you knew of or remember a shitty relationship, it got you. If you just wanted to tell someone off, it got you.
Yeah.
Because who wasn't saying hit the road, Jack, in schools after that over and over and over again? This, I don't know if it's his most enduring song, but it's up there.
I would say Georgia on My Mind probably is. And I know you didn't want to do Georgia on My Mind because you didn't want to talk about designing women.
I didn't want to talk about designing women, no.
But Georgia on My Mind is also not an original Ray Charles. It was written by Hoagie Carmichael and someone else that was the only song he actually wrote, which is very interesting. The lyricist. But nobody really knew from the original version if it was about a woman or if it was about a place or what it was about. It's a very pretty song. And I would say Ray Charles did the definitive version of it, and it was definitely about his home state of Georgia and his kind of broken relationship with it, because he came from nothing, extremely poor. If you actually looked at the story of his childhood, where his mother was, his grandparents were killed or dead or died. He was taken in by a man's family who worked with his dad, and then impregnated by him when she was 15 or 16, ran away to have the baby, came back with the baby, and then the man's wife and Ray's mom raised Ray, and the dad had fucked off and was on to other women. And then nobody really knows who the dad of his brother is. Like his brother who drowned in a laundry barrel at 4 years old, George, I think it was George. Nobody knows. Right. Nobody knows who the dad was. So yeah, and then he started going blind at 5.
Yeah.
From, they figured, glaucoma. Learned to play piano by Braille, which to me is, well, he learned to play piano, but he actually learned to read Braille sheet music, which is something that I was always fascinated by. Was how did he, when he was blind before he could play piano, how could he compose and, you know, write music and learn music? And it was because he would literally use one hand to read the Braille while he was learning the other hand and memorize it and then switch. That's a ton of work. If you've ever read sheet music, it's hard enough to just look at it and translate that into patterns. It's a whole nother thing to be trying to do 2 different things with your hands at the same time and memorizing what's going on with one of them.
The great ones can.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's people out there even now that can literally hear a song and then just play it immediately. So musical genius is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of hits that he had, because this wasn't his end. I'm even going I'm just even going back to like everything he did like on the R&B chart. So he had his first #1 R&B on that chart, or what do they call it then? Yeah, they call it just standard R&B chart.
Yeah, it was the R&B chart.
Yeah, so 1954, four in the 5. I'm just counting them as we go here. So 5 just in the 50s alone. George on My Mind didn't go #1 on R&B, which makes sense, I suppose.
It's more of a country ballad than R&B.
Yeah. But he kept up on the charts. What, I Can't Stop Loving You. That's an interesting song to go #1, because that's about as country as it gets. And that one swept it all, like country, R&B, regular pop. That doesn't happen. I mean, imagine that now. It's impossible. Lil Nas X couldn't pull that off. Could he?
I don't know. Yeah. Was he the one that did Old Town Road?
Yeah.
That was just country and pop. I don't think R&B, that definitely isn't R&B. R&B would have no shits to give about that song. I also have no shits to give about that song, and if you ever choose it, I will punch you in the face. Even though you're halfway around the world.
Holy crap. Damn. I've never seen you swing, but it could swing back for a punch, but geez, I don't want to. That seemed pretty emphatic. But yeah, no, looking at just everything he did here in the 60s. I mean, it took a while for his career to finally sort of peter off. And it really wasn't until the late 60s when he was in his mid 40s. And that was going to happen anyway. I hate to say it. It's just not something that we're not going to be talking about a lot of people in their 40s who had a lot of success in their 50s.
No.
Well, not commercial, I should say. Not chart success. I should specify that.
Not Billboard top 40 success.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't happen.
Potentially all sorts of success on other charts and in other strains, but I mean, pop top 40 tends to be sub 30. Occasionally stretching into 40, but not much.
Right. And Ray by the early 70s, he was sort of doing the legend circuit, which was perfectly fine. I mean, because he was, and he did.
Also, you think the 70s, the world changed in terms of music in the 70s, and disco took over and suddenly you have an easily mass-produced sound that people are loving, and
Thankfully,
it's
he didn't.
oh God, I'm glad he didn't.
Yeah.
But you think about just how musical taste changed, and his sound is classic and will
Mhm.
forever be loved, and that's why it's great that he continued on to tour and do his thing the way he did his thing. He was never going to be able to compete with the disco.
But he didn't have to. He didn't have to, and the great ones don't.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, and it's I'm glad you sort of brought this up. Gave me a chance to look back again. In my next bunch of free time, I'm going to go do a deep dive into his country, actually, into his country era. So I'm going to have a lot of fun with that. But do you want to know what you're going to do next week?
You already told me that
I didn't tell you what it is.
into an asshole, so I'm concerned.
Oh, you should be. You should be, because when we're doing something this good, we got to follow it with something so bad. It's a song about sex.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
No,
No, not Salt and Pepper.
it's not Salt and Pepper. By 4 people who look like they would have the most blandest vanilla sex. And only in the daytime.
Where are we going?
Okay.
What are we doing? I don't know. I'm lost. Can you give me a decade or a year?
It's the 70s. And if you think about it, you'll work up an appetite, and then you might want to go for some afternoon delight. Sky rockets in flight. Afternoon delight.
Oh man, that is like the worst of the worst.
Oh yeah, if you want to do an even deeper dive, you can find their short-lived variety show starring a young David Letterman.
Oh wow.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Oh wow.
Yep. This is about as bad as it's gonna get.
I will not be listening to a lot of this over the week. I listened to a lot of Ray Charles this week, and it was great.
Well, you only really have to
like
do
one
this
and
one
done.
song. Yeah, this is we only have to dissect this one song, and I don't know if you obviously you know the song, but you haven't seen what they look like, have you?
Maybe at some point, but it didn't actually like.
And after you see them, you'll realize why, if you saw them many times, why you wouldn't remember.
All right, Kirk. Well, I'm not looking forward to this, but we'll see how it goes.
You shouldn't have picked something so good, or I wouldn't have go something so bad. It's your fault. You did this to yourself.
I'm the only one who picks good songs. You just keep picking crap.
Oh, I did Sweet Dreams by Eurythmics. That's a great song.
Yes, you did. That's true.
Yeah, that's probably about it. Usually I usually do the crap, don't I? This wasn't even the crappiest one I looked at.
No, but I've got some good turds on the back burner waiting.
Nice. So. All right. Well, with that, everyone, stay safe, everybody. I'm sure wherever you are, it's another wave of COVID or not. I don't know. It's a weird disease.
It's a weird time.
It is. Akuma Matata. Bye, everybody.
Bye.